Our best looks yet at the new Haunted Mansion queue, another fresh-baked prediction is realized, and more progress at the Haunted Mansion gift shop. And while all of this is happening, the Disneyland Resort is entering a new era, with major projects becoming complete, new projects around the corner, and the arrival of the holiday season. We arrived at the Disneyland Resort on this last Friday morning to do our construction report, but we also were in the process of enjoying the first day of the holiday season and the opening of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So that's what I mean. When we're talking about a new era of the Disneyland Resort, that's what we're talking about, is all this stuff happening at once. The complexion, the personality of the park has changed. Well, not necessarily overnight, but just quickly. Tiana's Bayou Adventure opened that morning to the general public. No more previews, no more cast, no more Magic Key previews. General guests are allowed in the attraction, still via virtual queue and a lightning lane. So there's no standby yet. On this day, it had a rough start. It didn't open for the first 4 hours of the day. It didn't open until noon. So it was a little bit shaky, but when things did get happening, when things did get going, it was very exciting, but also kind of madness. The scene in the standby queue was pretty crazy. But finally, we ourselves, Liz and I, finally did get on the attraction at nearly 8 p.m. that night. It was pretty great, though. I really had a great time. So Tiana's is ready to go. Meanwhile, elsewhere around the park, Christmas is happening. All the decorations are up. We've been watching them put these decorations up throughout the last couple weeks or so, and it is officially here. The Christmas Fantasy Parade taking place. We saw Santa on Main Street. Took some selfies at It's a Small World with the lights. Beautiful.
Small World, just like everybody else is doing. Okay, say cheese. Oh yeah, look at that one, don't I?
No!
Am I smiling too much?
Oh, that's kind of
Oh my god, that's the worst picture ever.
And we even got to enjoy a wonderful trip through It's a Small World holiday, something I look forward to very much every single year, and it was a delight, as it always is. So stay tuned for more coverage, by the way, from Fresh Baked on the holiday season. If you didn't catch it already, there was a Christmas video and a Tiana's Bayou Adventure video published over the weekend. Hopefully you caught that, and more to come. But for now, we're going to head back to New Orleans Square, something that we reported on also earlier this week on Wednesday about, Magnolia Park. The construction walls were taken down at Magnolia Park. We no longer have to get on the Mark Twain. Are you kidding? Well, maybe we do to look over the rear queue. We didn't do it on this week, but perhaps next week, if the walls are still up, we'll try to see if we can't find anything happening back there in the rear queue. But Magnolia Park was open this week, and it revealed quite a bit. Hopefully, again, you caught that video we did of us walking through. But there's a few things that I want to highlight or update. Things that I've noticed since that first visit. For example, this is one of the main features. This is where the concept art suggested there might be a fountain, and while it could be a fountain, it's set up to possibly be a fountain. What I want to notice here is that what they've designed, and I didn't see this the first time, they've designed a face. That wall that separates Tiana's Palace and that courtyard from the Haunted Mansion queue is a face. The serpent is the nose. The purple flowers on each side are the eyes. There's even eyebrows above those eyes, and then of course a smiling face, a grin, with the steel fence or wrought iron around that little planter there. So I think that's really neat that they did that, and it's definitely with intent. That's definitely done on purpose. It goes with sort of the concept of the Haunted Mansion being sort of alive or dead, whichever the case may be. But I really got a kick out of that once I was able to sort of observe that. When we came back the second time, I also got a better look, took a closer look at that serpent, and there you can see there's the setup for the potential fountain works that are going to happen there. On that Wednesday, we observed that out of nowhere, the greenhouse queue, the extended queue that looks like a greenhouse, was just dropped in. It's now there behind construction walls, kind of like I said, kind of like out of nowhere. I feel like they prefabricated this and just dropped it into the queue back there. When we peeked around the corner, we got a closer look at the ADA elevator that's just over those green walls back there, and you can see that there is scaffolding still around that building, which suggests to me that they're not near done. You can see they're actually working on it there. But when we came back on Friday, and took a look at that canopy or greenhouse. I don't know what to call that. I mean, it looks like a greenhouse, but it is just a canopy, or not even a canopy. I'm not sure what you call that. But look, the scaffolding is down now. There's a construction worker there doing something. He's still working on it, but the scaffolding is down, which suggests that this is the final form. Are they not going to apply another layer, another themed layer to that? I don't know. I thought they might. It looked a little unfinished, looked a little rough still. Meanwhile, one of the really cool benefits of this space being open again is that the train, along with it, can you believe it? The train, you can board the train now at New Orleans Square, which we did exactly that. And if you're curious to know what Tianas looks like from the train now, we actually do have a clip. We caught this Friday night, and we for whatever reason, this has become like a focal point. It's like the bottles at the top of Tianas Bayou Adventure at the lift hill. Everybody's like, when is this going to happen? When is that door going to be open? Even though it's just for a second or two. So here it comes. The doors were open today. You can see the attraction in there, but it's not. They're covered in, they're obscured by trees. The new trees they've installed. There you can see a little bit of the finale, and then there's also like a layer, a scrim on the other side as well, sort of fogging the view a little bit. It's like a veil that was placed over it, so you're not getting the same view as you did from Splash Mountain. You can see it and you can hear it, but you can't see it. It's not real clear. I'm happy it's back open again. I'll say that at least. But I do kind of wish they had given us a better look, unobscured by those trees in the veil. That would have been my preference, but I'm still okay with it. Getting back to Magnolia Park, one thing that I observed in that Wednesday report that I want to re-mention here is something that really delighted me quite a bit, and that is that there's now queue music. It used to be that there was no music at all in the Haunted Mansion queue when it's Haunted Mansion proper. There was for Haunted Mansion Holiday, but it sounds like we're going to get queue music, separate music from what you hear when you first cross the threshold. Music that it changes. The music changes when you get into this rear part of the queue. Listen. That music that you're hearing is Grim Grinning Ghosts. It's a different arrangement, obviously, a slower tempo, something that, it evokes Grim Grinning Ghosts, but it is the music, the melody for Grim Grinning Ghosts, which I really, really appreciate. I think that's a great idea, a great addition to this queue, and I am looking so forward to being in this space. That might be the height of my year at this point, is being in that queue space and just going standby and feeling what that is like. I can't wait. And then we'll make one more observation here before we head out front again. The train station, the building that has been closed for a long time because of the fire, they've removed the scaffold in the scrim so you can see the roof line, but that's it. They've covered the other area up where the burn marks are, so it has not been repaired, and I'm not expecting this to be repaired for quite a while. Actually, it's going to stay like this probably, I'm guessing, until 2027, if you can believe that. 2027 is my guess based on what I'm hearing. Well, I'm going to go next door real quick to Tianas Palace. I don't know if you guys notice what's different here. Something has changed with these. Are those canopies? What exactly are these? I'm not sure. What's changed here? Yeah, man, they filled up that gap. There used to be a gap. That green canopy that was down the middle has been added. That used to be an empty space, and you could see through it and you could see the Tianas Palace sign. But apparently there was just way too much sunlight hitting guests. There was a moment right down the middle here where they had umbrellas up to cast a little shade on the guests downstairs, but it was just too bright and too sunny for the guests right down the middle, so they had to cover that. So now there's a scrim or a canopy, and they've actually replaced them. These are all brand new. Every single one of these has been replaced, and it feels like they're even lower than they were before. But these are brand new. And then we've also observed, we know that the band plays here. This is from the Tianas Palace side, and you can see the bandstand there, but they've opened it up on the other side over there. And here it is from the courtyard side, and it looks exactly the same, but in reverse. It's a mirror of the previous setup. So this, to me, suggests, obviously we've been predicting for a while, that the band they're either going to reverse the band entirely and it's going to play to the courtyard, or they're going to go back and forth depending on who they want to be entertaining, who they want to play to. That's my understanding. That's my belief anyway, based on the concept art and based on how they designed this. So look out for that. I'm looking forward to seeing when that happens. Let's get out in front of the threshold, the entrance to the Haunted Mansion. And this is a really interesting, I was not expecting this. Those are guests entering the queue right now via virtual queue. But over there to the left where those crows are, those crows represent a new path it's the beginning of the standby queue. The standby guests are actually going to, I'm assuming, are going to flow in first all the way to the far left. And they're going to make a left in between those crows and then make a U-turn and go into the new queue space where it's currently being obscured by those construction walls. Here we are to the left of that threshold, looking through the gate, looking through the fence, and there's those crows there. And they're going to make a left through that space right now that's covered in walls and go around the backside of it. This is the outer portion, the outer ring of the new expanded queue. I'm trying to get my camera through the fence a little bit. There it is. There's actually, a construction worker still working on the landscaping there, but they're going to go up that space and then into the rear queue where I should say the greenhouse queue, and then back into the interior queue, which we can't see yet. Fascinating. Okay, so that's the Haunted Mansion updates for this week. There's probably not much more to go here. We're just a week or two away, I think, from all of this being fully realized, in my opinion. I feel pretty good about this. Those construction walls in the rear queue are going to be down and the queue will be open in a couple weeks. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe not all of it all at once, just like we predicted it would just be the courtyard walls that came down. That turned out to be true. We got that right. Took a little bit longer than I thought it would, but we got that right. And I think they're going to be taking down a portion of the queue walls and perhaps even letting guests use part of that queue for standby. And then the last portion, the last walls to come down, and the last queue that'll become available to guests will be the rear queue where the ADA elevator is and whatever queue space they've developed back there. But it could be, we could see those walls come down, some of those walls, in the next week or two, is my belief. Okay, guys, if you'll allow me, let me take a quick break to remind you guys of our preferred travel partners, Getaway Today. They are fans of our show, and we are fans of them. If you are planning a trip to the Disneyland Resort or to any Disney theme park or even to Universal or Alani or anything of that nature, make your travel arrangements through Getaway Today. We love them. They are fantastic. They are the best in the business at making sure that you get everything you need out of a vacation at a Disneyland Resort or at the Disneyland Resort or Walt Disney World or anywhere you like. Knowledgeable, friendly, kind, and you'll probably get a good deal there. Use the link in our description for Getaway Today. Let them know we sent you, and I hope you guys enjoy your trip. We'll go next door where walls came down since our last update at the Haunted Mansion gift shop. That's been well documented, well covered in other segments. But one thing I do want to note is that there's been a lot of conversation about how plain it looks. People calling it a Home Depot shed, or just like it looks like an insurance office in Idaho or something. I don't know. And while I would agree that it does look a little average, a little pedestrian, a little plain, it's also, I believe, unfinished. The concept art certainly does suggest quite a bit more in terms of decoration and theming going on outside of the building. You look at that concept, look, they've got, planters, they've got, museum of the weird type theming elements out there in front. All of that, I do still expect to find that. I'm not sure we're going to see that planter by the window, and we're not going to get planters hanging. We already know we got lamps instead of planters there, or plants, I should say. But I do expect to find some of that. If you're wondering why I'm confident of that, well, they've already started. The view that we had when we arrived on this first day, this is on Wednesday. I don't notice it. I don't put the camera on it, but if we pause, you can see that construction wall up there obscuring the door right in the center of the frame. And then to its right, you've got some lamps and some posts, and there's a window to the right. That's empty up there, right? So there's nothing happening, no theming, nothing going on here around these windows. We came back on Friday, and look, they've started adorning this building with themed elements. Now, obviously, this is not what we're seeing in the concept art, or say everything that we're seeing, but it's something, and it suggests that there is more. There's more for them to do still. They're adding elements, and they're probably doing it overnight. And then when you come in the next day, there'll be a little something there that wasn't there before. That's my expectation. So as we come out to the front, we'll begin to see more stuff being added out here. And matter of fact, I'm not even sure if that sign is complete. I think there's more coming to that sign. Meanwhile, one thing that I want to show you guys here, I'm exiting the Haunted Mansion, and I was just curious to see, it looks like I'm having to navigate my way around that, but I'm doing this with intent. I'm trying to weave with purpose, just to show you. It was quite easy. There's not so many guests coming out of the Haunted Mansion that you'd be forced to do one thing or the other. It's a fairly single file line, and I didn't have any trouble. It's kind of interesting. I made the observation in my head that if this arrangement of the exit and this building were part of the original design of Disneyland, if it were 1965 that they put this in, and we saw it today, we'd be like, oh, that's part of the Disneyland charm. That's what makes it quaint and cozy and what's the word? Intimate. It's not all spread out like everything is elsewhere. That's what people would say if they had built this in 1965. You put that in there today and they're like, that's poor design. That's poor design. Give us more room. Guys, this is Disneyland. Everything is more cozy and intimate at Disneyland. So while I was like freaking out about it kind of a little bit in my head, just wondering, I am no longer worried about it. It's a matter of fact, I kind of find it endearing. So not troubled at all by those posts in the walkway. While we're here, you know what? We haven't been to Tom Sawyer Island for a little bit because we've been so busy with checking other things. But now that some of these projects are dying down, we're going to get a chance. I mean, there's nothing happening over there at the Haunted Mansion. So, and there's no reason for us now, or little reason for us to get on the Mark Twain to look out over New Orleans Square. Disney, I'm going to need you to go ahead and get started on another project here at Disneyland proper so I can get back on that Mark Twain and do some more construction updates, because this is killing me that I don't have a reason to get on the Mark Twain other than to enjoy it, I guess, which is plenty. As for Tom Sawyer Island, it's pretty much exactly as we left it the last time we were here. You still cannot get out there to the Phantasmic stage area. That area is still closed off to guests, which annoys me to no end. I find that to be very distasteful, and if I could get into somebody's ear at the Disney company, that's one of the things that I would want to talk about. The injustice that is being done to Tom Sawyer Island, the injustice that is being done to the reason why that space should be available to guests, bothers me to no end. And I would just love to talk to somebody who's in charge of making that decision to try to change their mind. I don't know why it is. That's a thing that I latch onto. I guess we all have our thing. But for me, that space out there belongs to us. That view was intended for us to have. We were intended to have that view out there on the Phantasmic stage and looking out at the rivers of America and watch the boats go by and looking at New Orleans Square. It is a crime that we can't do that anymore. I'll come back to that from time to time. But whoever's out there listening, I hope you hear us. I hope you hear me. It is a crime what is happening on this island. I mean, for now, it's just a duck pen. Ducks are feeding now in that space where we can no longer go. We can't go in there. Also, not working is the bilge pump still. One of the interactive features. Good news is that it's not green anymore. They have done something to the water back here. They have at least cleaned that up. This used to be a mossy, algae-like green. It is now, I mean, it's not exactly clean, but it's a little more clear than it was. You could actually see through the water a little bit. The pontoon bridge is still open, which is good. You can still cross that. But as hard as Liz tried, the skeleton trying to pick up the treasure is still not working. Back on the mainland, what is working still is the water wheel and buckets. Those are still working. That's great. I took the opportunity to go check in to see if the whistle is still obnoxious. And while it's still there and present, I do think that maybe they changed that. They lowered the decibels down a bit because it wasn't quite as in your ear as it usually is. I'm not sure if that's just me hoping for the best, but the whistle is still there. Next door, Indiana Jones. What's that say? 50 minutes? Okay. Oh no, that's not 50. I'm going to say that's probably, you're going to spend 10 or 15 minutes in that exterior queue and then another 20 inside. So maybe 30, 35 minutes. Looking to see what's going on. Any updates at the Jungle Cruise? No, nothing obviously to observe other than the tiger is still not animated. And it is not the case because the attraction was down. The attraction was up and functioning at the time of this recording. So they have just turned off the tiger. That's what passes for news these days at the Jungle Cruise. The tiger is not animated. Alert the media. We will travel next to Tomorrowland to check in on Pixie Hollow. And one thing I noticed, hey, look, there's guest walk. Look at that. They've opened up this path. They pushed the walls back about 5 feet to the left as we walk down this path. These walls were where the rail is. It was on the other side of the rail in the grass. So they pushed the walls back 5 feet to let us walk on this path again. And I think this is new concrete. I'm not sure which is new, if it's these tiles or the cobblestone path itself. But they did have to redo that path. But that'll bring us to Astro Orbiter to check in on Pixie Hollow. Let's see what's new. And there was actually quite a bit of activity here on this afternoon or morning. I'm not sure what time it was when we got on here. But it looks like they're repainting the floor there. Where this was all white before, this is now kind of a yellow tint on the grotto floor. And it looks like the rocks have been given a makeover as well, an update. There's the construction workers. Can you see them? Yes, you can. They're working on the Pixie Hollow homes, the little rock features around where the little pixies live. That's where they're working. They're probably repainting all that rock right now. So what we're getting is just sort of a cosmetic upgrade now. They're refreshing the rocks here, which is good in the sense that it means that Pixie Hollow has a future at Disneyland, at least for now, for a little while. Quick stop at Tomorrowland next, just because, again, my idle curiosity is making me check on this every week. I just need to know what's going on behind these walls, and I'm getting no answers whatsoever. If there are any cast members out there, Imagineers, techs who just want to give me some clue, I just got to have some clue what it is that they're trying to do with these boxes. There's just nothing going on in there, man. What's going on? I have no idea. I'm going to just keep checking every week. Let's go next to downtown Disney and check in on all that new development that's happening there with the suites and the bar and Earl's and all that. We'll start with the sweet shop here in downtown Disney, where the update is that things are taking a little bit longer than we had predicted. I thought, or I had heard originally, that this thing was going to be ready by fall, which I thought would be, November, December, that kind of thing. But now Disney is calling it winter of 2024, so that could be late December, or they even could go into January of 25, perhaps. And I have to say, things do appear to be stuck here. We're still waiting for the sign. We're still waiting for any of the theming elements to be applied to the windows. The concept art suggests that there's a lot of design here coming to these windows, so standing by. Of course, no news this week here from Tortilla Joe's with respect to this building being demoed. Now, I'm having second thoughts about whether or not that's even going to be a thing now, considering the news that was confirmed earlier last week. Concept art that was provided for Pearl's Roadside Barbecue, which, if I'm not mistaken, according to that concept art, it's going right here. It's facing, you can see in the concept art that looks like it's facing the alley right here, right next to Splitsville. Pearl's Barbecue right here, and then Arthur & Sons Steakhouse right here. Again, the concept art very much looks familiar in terms of the direction it's facing. The only thing that isn't jiving right now with what I'm seeing in the concept art is the fact that this is a two-story building, and neither of these buildings in the concept art look like 2 stories. But the reason why I'm concerned, or the reason why I'm conflicted, is because in the original story about this building, being converted, was that they said it was going to be built, these 2 locations were going to be built in the footprint of Tortilla Joe's, but they seem to be in no hurry to demo this building. And again, that tells me that perhaps they are just going to retheme it, which seems kind of optimistic. That building is very much designed in a very specific way. And, I don't know how, I guess you can take this structure and sort of reconfigure it a little bit, some of the exteriors, maybe tear some stuff down and put up some new stuff, new facades. Maybe they can keep this building here. Certainly that would be the cost-efficient option. And it is big enough, this space is big enough, this building is big enough to have a single kitchen serve both those restaurants. No date, though. No date has been given for, when they expect to go under construction for these 2 locations, or if there's, no confirmation about if this is a teardown or what. All we know is the concept art that has been provided, and now we know the names of the restaurants. Meanwhile, at the end of downtown Disney, there's Parkside Market, which, by the way, Disney is also saying is going to be ready by this winter, which could be up until January or so, but possibly December, I guess. Looks about as we left it. We got the glass, we've got the interiors up there for the bar that's happening around there, but I don't see this as having been vastly updated since last week. And there again, we have the Parkside Bar just over that wall right there. Just over that wall is where we see this concept art, which I think is new. This is the bar interiors. on the other side of that wall. And there again, you can see the sort of the rooftop element that's being added there. That's sort of creates the circular place around which guests will enjoy their drinks and food. Oh, here we go. To the right a little bit, we've got some paint. They're painting. I was wondering if they're going to stick with white here, but they are painting it, and they're giving it a very mid-century modern color scheme here to go along with all the colors that we've seen already, and it is consistent with the concept art that we've seen so far. So a little bit of turquoise. Oh, there is a sign. I can almost make out. Yeah, that's Gigi's Chicken Shop. That's going to be going right here, I would guess, on the other side of this wall. At least that's where the sign is, so you got to figure it's nearby. And then right next door, Disney has confirmed that these retail shops here, this one being the Avengers Reserve shop, I'm almost certain this one will be open on December 6th. So they are darn near ready here. If they're calling this December 6th, that is just a couple of weeks from now. Can they get there in time? It certainly doesn't seem like much has been happening inside there. I mean, you can see windows and doors there, but I don't know how far. There's no way of knowing. I don't know how far along they are inside, but the interiors must be done by now if they're saying December 6th, which again is just a couple weeks from now. And then, of course, there's Earl Sandwich, which we reported last week that permits have been finalized. They're getting ready to start construction here. We're getting the final approvals for those permits, and then construction will begin right here on the other side of this wall. We've seen the concept already, but that takes us to our biggest downtown Disney news story of this week. Actually, even before we get into that, right now, it's a Saturday that I'm recording this. There's a lot of commotion, a lot of whooping and hollering back there, which means construction crews are working literally overtime, this being a Saturday. So they are trying their hardest to get this done as soon as possible, getting everything ready for the holiday season and for the 70th. But as for that big news coming out of downtown Disney this week, it's concept art for Portos. We keep getting triple, quadruple confirmation that it is still happening. We've had our doubts, but Portos confirmed it, and now Portos is also showing us concept art of the building that will exist in this place. This will be, well, it might actually, this building might survive. They're not building it up, which they often do at Portos. They're building it out, and that's actually what I predicted. Per that concept art, it looks like the far right edge is the edge right here for the tavern. There's sort of a circular bullseye type design in the concrete, which is kind of reminiscent of what we see out here in the fountain. Fountain is not pictured in that concept art. But then what I said was that they're going to build it out and towards the ticket booths. We've got all that seating out there. They're going to grow it to the left. They might grow it up as well a little bit. It does look like there could be a second floor. Not a major one, but a second floor. Yeah, there is a second story there in that concept art. So they could keep this base and then append the second floor on top of that. But yes, this concept art does confirm that they're not going to bring it out this way. They're not going to build it up, but they're going to build it out and to the left. Now, whether or not that will conflict with the ticket booths is hard to say. I don't think it's going to reach that far. I think it's only going to go as far as this seating area exists, and that's basically the perimeter set up by Disney itself. So they're going to try to keep it within that space. Everything has already been organized in that way. And of course, it goes without saying, we have no date. No date at all. It's going to be forever into the future. I'm betting if they're just now getting approvals for everything hinges on Earls, or is it vice versa? I'm not sure. But they're just now getting approvals for Earls, which means perhaps they're ready to go here. No, they got to get their approvals for Earls first, and then they can tear down this one. They can close this one when they think they're far enough along. It could be 3-4 years before they build this thing. I guess is what I'm saying. 3-4 years. DCA is next, and before we even get into the park, we'll notice that the construction walls are still up around the new gates, and they're still up, by the way, at Disneyland. I do have an update for you on this. It is my understanding that it doesn't take 6 weeks to install new turnstiles. As we've been talking about, why are we here at we said this last week, why are we here at week 5 and they're still not done? It shouldn't take that long. It doesn't. It's paused. There's an issue with some of the legal aspects of what they're trying to do facial scanning, I think. And there are differences here in California of what you're allowed to do for facial scanning versus what you're allowed to do at, let's say, Florida or in Paris. So they're having some roadblocks in doing that. They're trying to streamline that process, but the laws here are different in California. So They're trying to figure out a way around that. So I think that's what's happening here is it's just straight up paused. It's not ongoing. They're not still trying to build it. It's been stuck for a couple weeks now. With that, we will head into DCA and Buena Vista Street where Christmas is in full effect. Obviously, Cars Land is among those. We're here, though, to check in on what's going on. We've seen some rapid progress here, finally. At the Cozy Cones, there's that awning. My understanding is they might be installing a single ordering place where you don't order at the cone. You just pick up at the cone. And it could be that that's what they're designing here is a kiosk for guests to place an order, and then you just go pick it up at the appropriate cone. I think I'm okay with that, to be honest. So that's what we're waiting for there. What we're not waiting for...
Called it.
Called it indeed. Last week I said, I think I figured it out. I think they're installing new seating. They put in concrete, and I think they're putting in new seating, additional seating for Cozy Cone guests. And sure enough, look at that. Tables and chairs, everybody. Tables and chairs. It looks good. I gotta say, this looks pretty good. I love the color. I love the setup. The quantity, there's a lot.
I mean, it was nothing before. Even the landscaping was kind of meh. So it's not like it was really eye-pleasing. So what they've done here is kind of perfect. I really dig it.
And they also make it a lot easier to connect the Cozy Cones to Luigi's and that space as well. This is a much more wide up. Tables were there in that space. Now there's no tables there. Completely unnecessary landscaping that they had here before. It was, unused space. And this is one of those cases where I feel like they did the right thing all around, because it's not like they needed that landscaping there. It's not like it served any kind of aesthetic purpose even.
Love it so much. Got a vodka pomegranate limeade. Cheers, Fresh Baked. Well done, Disney.
That leaves us with The Little Mermaid here at DCA. It's the only other project going on right now. They're doing some work on the queue out here. The walls are still up. This is going to be closed until the 23rd. Walls are still up. I have no idea. I didn't get a chance to get on the Golden Zephyr this week, so we're probably not going to find out until it's actually done. I don't know yet, but it should be open on November 23rd. Next week. And that's actually it. We'll wrap with our updates on what's closed now and what's going to be closed. As I just mentioned, Little Mermaid's going to reopen on November 23rd back at Disneyland. Great Moments with Blinken. Still waiting. No date on that. I have heard that they are behind schedule on getting that done. I had been predicting or hoping for January in time for the 70th, but they're behind schedule on getting the Walt animatronic up and running. So it may not be ready even by January. It may be not until February or something to that effect. Big Thunder is closed, will be closed by the time you see this on November 18th, and it'll be closed through December 12th, reopening on the 13th. Pixie Hollow remains closed, obviously, and reopening on December 1st. So that's now 3 weeks where we've got the same date, so that means they're back on track, I think. Casey Jr. is going to close on December 2nd. Through the 6th, reopening on the 7th. Storybook Land closing on December 2nd also. Through the 5th, reopening on the 6th. And that, Fresh Baked, is everything. Whew, we did it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Then follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at freshbakedisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at freshbakedisney. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.